Batwoman, Volume 1, Elegy, and New 52, Volumes 1 through 3, and a little bit of Volume 4. Batwoman is so damn good, bro. Like, anybody interested in getting into Batwoman specifically, start with Greg Rucka's Batwoman, Volume 1, Elegy. It's a perfect start. It's literally because Kate Kane as a character wasn't really invented until like the late 2000s. That woman existed as in Kathy Kane, and she had her sidekick, Batwoman, but they were created as love interests to Batman and Robin so that DC could convince the public that Batman and Robin weren't gay lovers because people are weird. But eventually, Kathy Kane faded into obscurity, and Betty remained Batgirl for a little bit, but of course, eventually Barbara became Batgirl. Betty was the first Batgirl. I forgot to mention that. But eventually Barbara became the iconic Batgirl we know her as. And Betty became a Firebird. And yeah, so Kate Kane re-envisioned as Batman's cousin instead. And a lesbian woman. And her story is so freaking cool. She is slowly becoming one of my favorite DC characters. And seeing how good her comics are is making me so mad about how bad the first season of her show was. I haven't watched the second season or the third season. I'm not interested in watching either of them, if I'm being honest. And it doesn't even star Kate Kane anymore, because Ruby Rose had left the production because she was being treated very badly. And someone else is playing Kate Kane in that series, but she's not like the main Batwoman anymore. But yeah, Takami's just like, how much do you know about Batwoman? How much have you read of Batwoman?
The only issues of Batwoman that I've read have been a little bit. I've read her short stories in Urban Legends from the Urban Legends issues that I've read. I've read her in the majority of the Gotham Knights story arc in Rebirth, which she's in a lot in. She's one of the main characters in that series. She kind of takes, it feels weird to say she takes the place of what Batman would have been in that series, but she does in the early issues of Rebirth Detective Comics up until Tim Drake's death. And I do like what I've read of her, but I haven't exactly like gone in and read more of her, if that makes any sense. Because I don't know, I haven't really had the interest to. Like, she's a cool character from what I've read, but not enough to make me actually go pick up a comic.
But yeah, whenever you do, check out Greg Rucka's run with which was essentially just Detective Comics, because she didn't have her own comic at the time until New 52, like a year later. And it's just so good. She has her own rogues. Like one of the only Batman rogues that really pop up in these last few volumes have been Killer Croc for a very specific reason. And but the rogues that she had, whether they existed before her comics or not, I don't know. Other than, well, I don't know. That's kind of spoiler. I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to spoil that for anyone reading it who's gonna read it. But there's one rogue that that is kind of like her Joker that is really cool, named Alice, who named herself after like Alice in Wonderland and stuff. That's really cool. But there's also this one dude who's like a werewolf, who's not even really he starts off as like a villain, but eventually they basically just start working together. And he helps her out a lot. And you know how I feel about werewolves. I love me some werewolves. But there are other were people who aren't wolves, and this one is like one that can turn into like an octopus, and he's a part of this thing called the, what are they called? The Religion of Crime. It's very strange. But Batwoman's comics delve way more into really almost more into the fantastical side than Batman does. She deals with a lot of like ghost and like ghouls and like universal monsters type stuff. And I think that's where her character fits perfectly, because she looks like a vampire. She is pale as hell. Even with the suit off, she's extremely pale. I always thought when I was first reading it that when she was wearing the suit, that she would like put makeup on her face so that it would be harder for people to recognize her, like her jaw and stuff. But no, she takes it off and she's literally just as pale. And she has red hair. She's wearing black and red. She looks like a vampire. And all of the villains she's dealing with are, they fit that theme. And I think that they low-key need to lean into that even more, about how all her villains are essentially like these these universal monsters like mummies and vampires and werewolves and giant alligators or crocodiles and Man-Bat would be a good person for her to go up against. um I'm also a sucker for romance. There's some decent romance in this with a specific character. And yeah, you should definitely check it out. That woman's good. She also has a very intrinsic connection to the military through her parents that I think is super interesting about how she got trained to become Batwoman. It's similar to how Batman did it, but they go into more detail, and the stuff she went through is brutal. I'm not sure exactly all the specific things Batman went through, but what she went through was brutal as hell. One in particular was like watching videos of like murders and listening to people being murdered to prepare herself for that type of stuff. It was crazy.